everyone, we got another wrestling tier list for you today, and it's gonna be a bit of an interesting one, kind of a silly little fun one. We're looking at wrestling match types, you know, the good old stipulations of the wrestling world. Clearly not every stipulation that ever exists isn't on here, just about 30 or so of like the kind of the highlights, I don't know. So strap yourselves in, like and subscribe. We're almost at 500 subscribers, so if you're enjoying this video or just the content in general, make sure you subscribe. Let's kick it off. We have the 2 out of 3 falls match. Pictured here, Sami Zayn and Cesaro down in NXT had a very good 2 out of 3 falls match. I think it is, it's a solid match type. Nothing too crazy. It's like 3 stages of hell, but not with stipulations. And speaking of 3 stages of hell, I forgot to add that to the you know, the selection down here. I think it can be done really well, especially a great tag team 2 out of 3 falls matches like DIY and the Revival, Briscoes and FTR. I think they had a 2 out of 3 falls match. I'm gonna put it maybe like a bottom of great because we've seen some very classic 2 out of 3 falls matches. We're gonna go to ambulance match now. We don't see him too often, and I'm kind of bummed out by that. I know we don't see him too often because, you know, like what kind of feud requires an ambulance to roll up to the arena? You put your opponent in the back of an ambulance. It's a bit silly, like, looking at it from a wider lens, but I like the matches. I wish we could see some more ambulance matches, so I'm gonna put ambulance match in fine. And now we have AEW's Anarchy in the Arena, just like a large team brawl throughout the arena and the ring, backstage. Not Stadium Stampede, that's more like pandemic stuff, even though they did just do one in Wembley, that was pretty wild. But yeah, Anarchy in the Arena, usually done at Double or Nothing. They're just wild matches, you know, just fun. AEW loves their violence, so you know when you got a guy like Jon Moxley in there, like we've seen the past couple years, it's gonna get pretty violent. In the picture here, you see Matt Jackson doing the super kick that had his shoe explode. That was insane. They're always fun. They've yet to put on a bummer of an Anarchy in the Arena, and they always end up being pretty good too, so there might be a case for best. I don't think it's like an all-timer stipulation, but it never fails to disappoint. So I think I feel like we get more classics out of the 2 out of 3 falls, and the Anarchy in the Arena is just more silly fun once a year. So I'll put it right under 2 out of 3 falls. And now we have a Battle Royal. Everybody starts off in the ring, unlike a Royal Rumble where they come out, you know, every 90 seconds. I love me a Battle Royal. Every time there's a Battle Royal, like, advertised for a show, you know my ass will be seated. I love the over-the-top rope elimination format. That's why I love the Royal Rumble. We'll get to that later on. So it's just like a scaled-down version of a Battle Royal, but this is me being, like, you know, biased. A Battle Royal in wrestling is probably an all-timer stipulation for me. It's not anything too crazy, but it is just, if that's listed on a card, I am most excited for that match. At Double or Nothing, that Orange Cassidy Blackjack Battle Royal, one of my favorite matches on the whole card. The Slim Jim Battle Royal at SummerSlam was really fun. I loved it. So yeah, I love me a Battle Royal. I'm putting it in best. You might disagree, and that's okay. And now we have a little silly one. We got the blindfold match. We don't get too many of these, and for good reason. I'm sure if like a good comedic wrestler was in it, like Santino, it's like, you get a couple laughs, but it's stupid for the most part. I think it's just kind of bad. There's not really any arguing against it. It's just kind of it's silly, but not in the best way, so I'm putting it in bad. Next up, we got Buried Alive. Now we have Undertaker's Yard, even though I think he's lost a good chunk of the Buried Alive matches he's been in. I think he's probably been in like 3, 4, 5, and he's probably lost like more than half. I think you can look that up. That might be true. Maybe I'm just lying to you. I don't know. But again, kind of like the ambulance match. I like it. I wish we saw him a bit more often, but at the same time, I could see why. They're a bit more slow, because you gotta like, I'm gonna shove you in this hole, and then you gotta fight your opponent off. I think the ambulance match is way more fun. This is more kind of just for like characters like The Undertaker, someone that's a bit more on the spookier side of things. I'm gonna put it in okay. Some people probably hate it, and I'm not gonna totally disagree with you. I'm putting it in okay. It's probably gonna wind up on the bottom. We'll just see how far this list goes. Now we have a chairs match. Speaking of the bottom, we got ladder matches, tables matches, and, you know, recently, of the past, like, decade or so, we've gotten the chairs match. And you know what? It doesn't hit as hard or as a ladder and tables match. So it's not bad necessarily. Like, chairs are a fine weapon, but that's like the most common weapon used in like a typical street fight or whatnot. So nothing is super exciting about a chairs match. I think it's more practical and sometimes a bit more interesting than a Buried Alive match, so maybe a smidge above it, but the Buried Alive match at least has character to it. So I'm going to put it just below Buried Alive. Chairs match, I'm sorry. Have some banger matches in your repertoire and live up to your older brother's ladder and table. We got the coffin match, and I only put this on here because, or I only remembered it because of All In's casket match, or was it a coffin match between Sting and Darby versus Christian Cage and Swerve. That match was better than it had any right to be. I knew it was going to be fun, Sting, entertainment, and AEW, but that low-key might have been just like, obviously there was a lot of bangers on the All-In card at Wembley, but this was one of my favorite matches of the night. Every match was kind of good on that show, but this match really stood out to me. I loved it. Darby being a madman with the coffin. Not every superstar is going to have a match like this in a coffin match. They're not going to slam themselves on the coffin. But it was just so fun. Even just a normal casket match like Mark Henry and Taker at WrestleMania 22, that was fine. I'm trying to think of some other ones. I can't really. My head's just kind of stuck on the Sting and Darby match. But I really enjoyed that match at London, so that's a bit biased here. I'm sure overall it's a fine stipulation. So I'm not going to put it in great, but I might put it just a smidge above ambulance, only because we've seen it more than an ambulance match. If ambulance matches were more common, it might get the upper hand. But again, this match is also kind of for like more of the spooky guys like Kamala and Taker. You know, you always got to have Taker involved. Coffin match, you know, Darby, because, you know, nothing's over to the underground. He's very reckless. Dead in the middle, maybe a little bit higher, but I'm going to put it top of fine. And now we have a match that some people love, some people hate. I'm more in the middle. Like, I don't hate it, but we have a typical indie death match. We got the Deathmatch King, Matt Cardona, pictured right here. And when I think of deathmatch, indie death matches, I'm thinking of like all the light tubes. Light tubes, when there's so many of them and the ring is just covered in all that like powdered, almost like glass at that point, I'm like, all right, it's a bit much. We know David Arquette nearly died in a death match, and sometimes they go a bit too far. If they're more on the tame side but still violent, I enjoy it much more. But when it's in the like indie wrestling arena, you know, 200 fans watching these guys nearly kill each other and stab each other, it's like, okay, it's a bit too much. So if it's done at least a little tame, I can watch it, but normal indie death matches are just not really my thing, and I think that's a fair point to make. Because they're a bit too much for me at times, I'm going to put them slightly under a chairs match, but I don't think they're bad. I think they make wildly entertaining moments, so props to you, but try not to kill each other, guys, okay? Now we got the dog collar match. I have strap match on here, I believe, as well. Yeah, I see Fiend and Bryan right there. But dog collar match is a more brutal version of the strap match, in my opinion. AEW have put on, I believe, two or three, well, three if you count the Ring of Honor tag match with the Briscoes and FTR. But every dog collar match they've done, knocked it out of the park. Brody King, Cody, very good match. MJF, CM Punk, probably my favorite of the three dog collar matches. But FTR and Briscoes tore the house down with that in their tag team dog collar match. That was very interesting. I would like to see Bucks and FTR maybe repeat that, because I know their little feud ain't over because they didn't shake each other's hands at All in Wembley. So Bucks in a dog collar match with FTR, I'm here for it. Just a little idea. I'm slipping on my tongue right now. But yeah, dog collar match, really fun, really brutal too. Surprisingly more brutal than like a lot of these matches. It's probably like just a couple notches like below like indie death match, because there's always a lot of blood involved with those things. So I'm gonna put it above ambulance, above coffin, because you don't see it too often, but when you do, it's always almost like a spectacle, kind of. So you know what, just because AEW have knocked it out of the park, I'm going to put it in great. We've seen some classics from it, and I'm sure the next dog collar match will be a classic as well. We got the Elimination Chamber match. Happens pretty much once a year, twice a year, I guess, on the same night. Got the women's chamber and the men's chamber now. And some of them are hit or miss, I'm not going to lie. But there have been quite a few good ones. It's been a thing for, since like 2002, so that's like 20 years now. That's crazy. And like I said, hit or miss. So the structure looks cool. Obviously, over the past few years, they kind of padded it up, which I understand safety, but it doesn't look as menacing as it used to. It's probably gonna sit somewhere between like top of fine. I think we can get more magic out of it than a normal coffin match. but they really got to go hard on it. Because a basic chamber match, now that we've seen it so often over the past couple decades, it's like, okay, show me something crazy. Otherwise, it's going to just kind of rest on the bottom. But overall, as a stipulation, I think it's very interesting. The chamber does have an interesting look, regardless of how they've padded it up over the years. So I'm going to put it right and fine. Nice middle ground for the chamber match. We got Falls Count Anywhere. I think this match, when it goes to crazy places like outside, even though those are more of the messier Falls Count Anywhere matches, I think Falls Count Anywhere could be one of my favorite stipulations. They wind up in the crowd sometimes. Usually it'll just be like around ringside, up the stage. They'll kind of dip backstage, but then come back out. I want my Falls Count Anywhere matches to end, like Umaga and Jeff Hardy. Probably one of my favorite matches ever. I just love them going up the stairs, Hardy sliding down the railing, whacking into Umaga, climbing up the production truck outside one of those semis, doing the swanton. A very, standout match in my brain. If I think of Falls Count Anywhere or just, extreme matches, that comes to my head. Umaga and Jeff Hardy knocked it out of the park. I think that was, 2008? Very fun match. I'm going to put this Falls Count Anywhere match between Charlotte and Sasha up there as well. Very memorable moment when she made Charlotte tap out, bank statement, over that, railing in the crowd. That was very nice. Falls Count Anywhere match stipulation, I think, when done, it's, sometimes done a bit basic. So I'm going to put it a smidge above, or a smidge under Battle Royal, because Battle Royal, they're always fun. I mean, they're hella basic now, but there's just a sweet spot in my heart for it. Falls Count Anywhere, I think, can produce some more memorable moments. I'm actually going to move it above Battle Royal. So there you go. So far in the lead as best stipulation in wrestling, I'm going to give it to Falls Count Anywhere. But they got to get a little wild sometimes. They can't be, tame just around ringside. We got to see some crazy stuff in them Falls Count Anywhere matches. We have Hell in a Cell up next. Classic structure. When even, I guess a non-wrestling fan could probably, give you this stipulation. They know the giant cage. We have a few cage-like structures around the ring on this tier list. Punjabi Prison, I'm sure you can see down there. But Hell in a Cell is an all-timer. It's a classic. Even the most basic Hell in a Cell matches are still wow, there was a giant cage there. It was pretty cool to look at. So, while there's probably been more Falls Count Anywhere matches, I think Hell in a Cell can always produce at least some magic, regardless if, we've seen some pretty basic ones, like Orton and Mark Henry, I think was pretty basic. I know Sheamus and Orton, they really mainly used the steps in that match, like the Irish Curse on the steps and the RKO on the steps. So yeah, I'm going to give it to Hell in a Cell, though. I think it beats Falls Count Anywhere just by a little bit, because, Undertaker, Shawn Michaels, Triple H, Undertaker, Rollins and Ambrose had a good one in 2014. So yeah, I'm going to give it to Hell in a Cell to top this tier list right now. Maybe something will pass it. Who knows? We have the Inferno match. And I believe last time WWE did this, it was called the Ring of Fire. I think that was SummerSlam 2014 with Bray Wyatt and Kane. 2013. My bad. They called it the Ring of Fire match. I guess The Fiend and Orton kind of had a Ring of Fire, but that was like a... What? That was like a firehouse... That was like a... Playhouse... Fiend... Burn alive match. I don't know what they... I know The Fiend got burned alive in that match. I don't know what they called it. They're kind of... I mean, they're more ooh, look at the flames more than a good match. I don't think there's been a good Inferno match. Kane and Wyatt had an okay match. It ended in interference because they always like to do that kind of crap. But at least it was kind of creative with, the fire blanket. So Harper and Rowan, good on you for using your high IQ brains. MVP and, I think, Kane. MVP lit his ass on fire. That was a bit silly. And then Kane and Undertaker, obviously... Back in, I don't even know when, 1998, I want to say. They look cool, but really nothing too crazy. I understand why we haven't seen it. Again, it's also another, match that kind of depends on the guy involved. We need a Kane or an Undertaker in there for sure, or, The Fiend. The Fiend, if you would have had maybe, a couple more Ring of Fire matches, they could have been pretty badass. But, I don't know. It's probably going to go... in okay somewhere. I'd rather watch an indie death match than the few Ring of Fire matches we've had. We have an I Quit match. We've seen this kind of brought back over the couple past years or so. I believe Charlotte and Ronda did one. I don't think Liv and Ronda did one. I think it was just a normal extreme match. But yeah, that's the last one I can think of is Charlotte and Ronda Rousey at Backlash in 2022, I think. Maybe I'm getting my years wrong. But this stipulation is always pretty brutal regardless of who's involved. Like right here pictured, we got Cena and Orton. I remember this vividly. Cena handcuffed, hung on the ring post, and Orton's just whacking him in the gut with a kendo stick. Very vicious, like torture almost. Poor John Cena. But I think I Quit matches, very brutal, and it really depends on the storyline. Like, you really need to have a heated rivalry to have one of these matches, and I think that's the way they should continue to go. As much as I kind of love the stipulation, I think it's good that we don't see it too often. I think it was a submissions count anywhere match. I think it was Legacy versus DX. I don't know if that was necessarily I Quit. I think it was just submissions count anywhere. But like having the referee have to follow everybody around the ring, like, do you quit? Do you quit? Do you want to quit? So yeah, I Quit, very good. It does kind of, depending on like if it's like a chicken shit heel type character, it does kind of like mess with the reputation of a superstar, because like, oh, he verbally said I quit, he couldn't take anymore. But I mean, Orton said I quit, and we still look at him as like one of the GOATs. So I guess, maybe that is a shutdown to my argument there. I'm gonna put it a little bit under 2 out of 3 falls, just because we don't see it too often. But when a rivalry calls for it, it's a very good way to like kind of end that rivalry. We have an Iron Man match here. Now, a few of them have gone to 60 minutes. Most of them, I think, go to like 30. Bryan Danielson, MJF tore the F and house down, had a great Iron Man match at Revolution this year. Of course, we had the classic Michaels and Bret Hart at WrestleMania. I'm trying to think of some other ones. Another hour-long... I don't know why I'm only thinking of hour-long ones. We had Cena and Orton, I believe, at I think it was Bragging Rights. That was something. They're always long, epic matches, regardless if it's 30 minutes or an hour. Charlotte Flair and Sasha Banks had one at, I think it was Roadblock 2016, I want to say? I don't know. But they're always filled with, some drama, some intense moments, like when the clock's winding down. Rollins and Ziggler had one at Extreme Rules. While they're drama-filled and, a lot of wrestling, I like wrestling, so 30 minutes worth of wrestling, sign me up, if it's good wrestling, that is. Sometimes they could feel like a drag, but if they're paced well, like Danielson and MJF, hell, even Rollins and Ziggler, I think, was paced pretty well at Extreme Rules 2018, I think? So I'm gonna give it maybe very bottom of great. I think, like I said, sometimes I could feel a bit long. I know Michaels and Brett, none of them scored a fall until, they had to go sudden death. So that's you really gotta I don't want to say build suspense, but you really gotta wrestle around each other without wearing the audience out. So it's very difficult to do. But when they go to an hour and you have a match like Danielson and MJF, it's worth it. But just because you never know what you're gonna get, I'm gonna put it bottom of great. We have a classic now. We got a ladder match. Can't go wrong with the ladder match, even those basic ladder matches, they're fun. I'm gonna put it a smidge above Battle Royal. I think I'm going to put it a smidge above Falls Count Anywhere. Is the ladder match better than Hell in a Cell? I think we've definitely seen more ladder matches than Hell in a Cell matches, so Hell in a Cell feels more of a spectacle, I guess. But I think a ladder match can be maybe not as brutal as a Hell in a Cell match, but I think they can be a bit more fun to watch. I feel like a ladder match can go, hell, even just 10 minutes, and it'll still be a great ladder match. So I think I'm going to put a ladder match a bit above Hell in a Cell. I think they're kind of interchangeable, but I think I like my placement of ladder matches here. Even the Pandemic ladder match that's pictured, Hardy, Sami Zayn, and AJ Intercontinental title. No fans in attendance, but that was still a very banger ladder match. So yeah, I'm putting it above Hell in a Cell. This is taking the lead so far. We have a last man standing match. This falls right into the I Quit match, where we don't see them too often, but when we do, it's a good fitting end to a rivalry, or it's just, hell, it's a pretty fun match, honestly. Sometimes they go a little bit too long, or maybe not too long, but having to wait for the referee to go 1, 2. Pretty slow, them refs, but you know what? They keep the matches going, so we appreciate you. I stand with referees. But I think I like them a bit. They're not as, they can be as violent as an I Quit match. I feel like I Quit, you're purposely trying to make your opponent verbally give up. Last Man Standing is like, what can I do to just keep this dude laid out? There's been a lot of big Last Man Standing moments. I just set myself up for failure there because I'm blanking. Cena and Edge at Backlash 2009. That is one of my favorites. I've seen that match like numerous times. Of course, there's also like Orton and Edge, Pandemic WrestleMania. That went on forever, but it was okay in moments. Even with a crowd there going like 45 minutes or so in that match, it probably would have worn them out a bit. I think I'm gonna put it above I Quit. I think they tend, probably because we've seen them more than an I Quit match, but I think they tend to get more creative, like Brock bringing a tractor out at SummerSlam. Recently, we've seen a lot of times in Last Man Standing matches, like dumping the announce table over on their opponent. That's happened quite a bit. So yeah, I think Last Man Standing matches, the wrestlers get a bit more creative in there instead of more vicious like I Quit. So I think it's more entertaining. So I'm going to put it, you know what, I'm going to put it, just because they're a bit more entertaining at times, I'm going to put it above 2 out of 3 falls as well. So yeah, top of great for Last Man Standing. Now we have Lumberjack, and while I don't think it's a bad stipulation, it's always like, ooh, we got the good guys and the bad guys on one side of the ring. Good guy gets thrown out, bad guys attack. Bad guy gets thrown out, good guys, well, they don't really attack because they're good guys, but they make sure they get back in the ring. I don't know. I don't really know how to feel about this. We don't see them too often. I know like 2012, 2013, there were quite a few of them. I think Sheamus and Big Show had one. Ambrose and Rollins had one at SummerSlam. I mean, it's nice for like a crowd of people brawling on the outside. It usually ends up breaking down, and then towards the end, the winner gets like a sneaky little win because of all the bodies on the outside moving around. So a lot of moving parts, but nothing too crazy ever comes out of a Lumberjack match. Because, can you recall any like memorable, like super fun Lumberjack matches? I mean, I think Sabu and Cena had like an Extreme one, I think they did. Other than that, I can't recall a single like crazy Lumberjack match. They're gonna be an okay somewhere. Probably above Ring of Fire, Inferno match. A death match at least can be like creative at times. This is kind of just like meh. It's just kind of meh. We have the Money in the Bank ladder match. I put this on here because it's like kind of different than like a normal ladder match. Normal ladder match, you could have 1-on-1, 2-on-2, triple threat, yada yada. Money in the Bank, it's always the same. It's always about 6 or 7 or 8, and they're always going for like the same prize, a briefcase that guarantees you a world title shot within the next 12 months. They're always fun. It's just like the Royal Rumble for me. I love when Money in the Bank season rolls around. I love multiple people in a match going after one goal, doing some crazy stuff if need be. Money in the Bank this year had some pretty crazy matches. The women's one had a really creative finish with the handcuffs. I really like that. But there's always at least one interesting moment in every Money in the Bank ladder match. So I think that guarantees it a spot in the best. Do I like them more than Battle Royals? A bit. Do I like them more than Falls Count Anywhere matches? Actually, now that I think about it, Falls Count Anywhere matches can carry a bit of weight on their shoulders, so we gotta put some respect on that stipulation. But I think I do like it a bit more than Falls Count Anywhere matches. Is it above Hell in a Cell? I think Hell in a Cell feels more special than just a run-of-the-mill Money in the Bank ladder match. So I think I'll put it slightly under Hell in a Cell. Or slightly above. I think I'm going to put it slightly above. Hell in a Cell, like I said, there's a few misses. Money in the Bank is always going to be a good time. Even if it's like, I can't recall like a bad Money in the Bank ladder match. Like, I can, remember something like, oh, that's fine. Like, WrestleMania 26 had a lot of people in it, but it was still fine. Hell in a Cell, there's been some like, oh, that wasn't really that great of a Hell in a Cell match, but it's iconic, and it's still kind of fun. So Money in the Bank, I'm going to put a smidge of a Hell in a Cell, smidge above it. But a normal ladder match, you could bring it out, you could bust it out whenever you want in the year, not just wait for that, that June pay-per-view to roll around. We got, oh yeah, we got an on a pole match, blank on a pole, kendo stick on a pole, Bailey and Alexa Bliss, I can remember that one. We got, like, contract on a pole, whatever the hell else on a pole. Both guys are standing in the ring. There's a giant pole on one corner. Just you just like knock your opponent to the floor and quickly grab it. There's not really like try to build suspense, like, oh, he's climbing the ropes, can he reach for it? It's like, it's not like a ladder match. It's like a ladder match is like very, very young cousin who still is like growing up, and you're like, one day, little fella, but you know that little cousin's so stupid. One day, my ass, he's not gonna do anything. But yeah, on a pole matches, they're terrible. Would I rather watch an autumn pole? The autumn. Would I rather watch an on a pole match than a blindfold match? At least blindfold matches, you can get a bit creative and silly. On a pole is like, there it is, dangling in the corner. Go after it, guys. It's like if a Money in the Bank briefcase like fell in the ring and they're just like seeing who can grab it first. That's what it feels like. There's never an intense moment. It's going in bad. Speaking of bad, Punjabi prison. Straight away in bad. Or, well, actually, you know what? There's a lot of Punjabi prison haters out there. Yeah, it's ugly, and it is very, like, view obstructing, and it's just, they're never super good. Like, Orton and Jinder, one of the Singh brothers falling off the top through an announce table, that's cool. Batista, I believe, like, jumping from one wall to another, that's kind of cool. But, you know, it's always, like, slow-moving wrestler plus wrestler we all like. You know, Batista and Khali. Khali's a slow guy, but we like Batista, so okay. Undertaker, Big Show. We all like Undertaker, but Big Show's big and kind of slow, and we all want Undertaker to win. Jinder Mahal and Orton. Jinder doesn't know too many moves. He's kind of basic and mid, and we all like Randy Orton. It's always kind of like the same formula for those matches, and it's always... It's like, you gotta escape the ring through a door, but if you don't go through the door in time, it shuts forever, you gotta climb over, then you gotta go climb over another wall. It's just, I don't know, why? Just kind of, why are you here? I'll put it above a blindfold match, because at least it's like a cage match, and you can use the surroundings as a weapon, I don't know, there's not very many redeeming factors about it. We got the Royal Rumble. Same vein as Elimination Chamber and Money in the Bank, where you know when it's that time of year, you know what you're getting. I love the Royal Rumble. It is my favorite pay-per-view, probably. Do I like the Royal Rumble match more than a typical ladder match, or a Money in the Bank ladder match, or a Hell in a Cell match? They're all gonna be over like 30 minutes long for sure, so you know you're in it for the long haul, but you got multiple people coming out every 90 seconds, so it's like, okay, it keeps you like on your seat. It keeps you on your toes, and they're always fun. There's been some kind of boring Royal Rumbles, and sometimes they can feel a bit long to sit through. I know I was like rewatching a bunch, and some years are like, you know, not as great as others. But a good Royal Rumble match is like a nice like drug that you're craving, man. It's just, I don't know if that was the best like comparison to use, but yeah, Royal Rumble's always fun, even if it's kind of mid. I'm gonna put it, though, I would say, like, a few years ago, without thinking, oh yeah, Royal Rumble, my favorite match stipulation. But I think since Money in the Bank ladder matches go a bit quicker, and, like, you know, multiple bodies, which is a nice, like, thing for me, I like numerous people in a match, I think I might put it in, like, a solid third place, slightly above Hell in a Cell. Like, it's a spectacle mainly because it's, like, the once, or I guess since the women's matches, they're like twice a year thing. And I love a Battle Royal, and I really love a Royal Rumble. But it's like, you know, it's more of like the spectacle, the aura around the match. The match itself, like watching it, maybe I would rather watch a Hell in a Cell match than the hour-long Royal Rumble in 2015 that was good, but also like, oh, kind of oof. You know what I mean? So I think it's very interchangeable with a few in the best tier, but it's going in the best tier regardless. I probably should have said that at the very beginning, but yeah, it's clearly going to go in best. I didn't realize I liked Money in the Bank and normal ladder matches so much. But we got another cage match on this list. We have the steel cage, normal steel cage match that you'll find on your ordinary episode of Raw or SmackDown. No roof. One of the ways to win is just escaping, and while that can provide some interesting little outcomes, I do kind of prefer the way AEW goes about it, where it's like, you can't escape, it's a match in a cage, it's kind of violent, and, you know, you can't just chicken out and escape, you gotta go through it, and it's a nice cage match. So, while I do think the ability to open the door and escape, oh yeah, that's another thing, opening it a door and escaping. That's kind of like a lame way, like you're locked inside the steel, you know, roofless box, battle it out, and like halfway through the match you'd be like, ref, open the door please, oh please, I'd like to leave. You know, I get kind of crawling out, or like, you know, above and over the top of the cage, but like asking the ref to open the door. And it seems like every cage match now, at least in WWE, is always the same thing. Like, somebody's on the outside, like, oh, we made the cage match so nobody could come in and interfere. Haha, we're geniuses. But the ref always gets knocked down. They grab the key. They open the door. They lock themselves in. 2-on-1. Ha ha. Who could have seen this coming? So the steel cage match in WWE at least kind of has gotten watered down. There's still some really banger cage matches. So, not in the same league as Hell in a Cell. While it does have flaws, it still can be a very entertaining match. Hell, even Omos and Lashley had a good one, mainly because, you know, Lashley got slammed through the wall, and that was cool. Other than that, you know, it was what it was. We're seeing a steel cage match the day after this or the day before this comes out, you know, at Payback. So hopefully Becky Lynch and Trish Stratus did the stipulation proud. Probably gonna put it in the fine tier. I feel like I'd rather watch a coffin match. Again, still kind of biased because the Sting and Darby versus Cage and Swerve was really, really good. But I think just because I'm coming off that all-in high, I'm going to put cage match, normal cage match, under the coffin match, right above ambulance. Because we see it more often, and again, it's always kind of a treat. We have the strap match. Now, it's like a dog collar match, except a bit less violent, but still, the main theme throughout every strap match is they kind of wrap it around their fists and whip their opponent. It's like, ooh, you see the scars on their back, and that's pretty nasty. After every strap match, one of the wrestlers always takes a picture, you know, like Sheamus, Bryan. What are some other famous pictures that I'm forgetting about? I don't know. You get the gist, though. Like, you see the scars and, like, the strap marks on their back. It's like, damn, brother, you went through a war. But I'm going to give the strap match. We don't see it too often, and another I get why not kind of thing, where it's like, it's one of those things like, oh, you're trying to run away from me? Let's have a strap match. That way you can't run away. And while it's okay, it's just personally not one of my favorites. I don't think it's a bad stipulation by any means, but if a strap match is announced, I'm like, okay, that's fine. Roderick Strong and Dexter Lumis had a fun one. NXT Great American Bash 2021, 2020? I don't know. So I don't know where I'm going to put this little guy. Probably in fine. Just bottom of fine. I think they're probably more enjoyable than a Buried Alive match, but I'd rather watch an ambulance match only because big old ambulance, you know, wee woo, backing into the arena, and, you know, shit's about to go down. But yeah, strap match, don't hate it. It's more of a personal thing. It's fine. We got I was going to say Chicago street fight, like Punk and Jericho are having in this picture, but this is just going street fight, no DQ, no holds barred. They're all pretty much the same thing. You know, you can't get disqualified. You can go wherever you want, but you gotta pin in the ring. There's been so many no DQ matches. Trick or Street fights. Miracle on 34th Street fight. You know, Brawl Day Street fight. I just made that up, but I'm sure it's in some wrestling companies somewhere. Yeah, the Happy Brawl-a-Day Street fight there. If I start my own wrestling God. If I start my own wrestling promotion, I'll make that part of my card. But they're standard. Sure, sometimes they're great. Since it's like a wide variety of, like, throughout the years of wrestling, you know, all the street fights that have ever happened. There's some good ones. There's some ones. There's, you know, the Trick or Street, you know, the themed ones where John Cena, Christmas, opens the bowling ball, president rolls it into Del Rio's crotch. That's some fun. That's some silly stuff. But I think, have there been more bad street fights than good street fights? I don't know, because you really kind of only remember the good unless it was really, really bad. So I think, and it's kind of like a classic. If you get announced that you're going to be in a no DQ match, the crowd is still going to go, whoa, no DQ, what's going to happen? And while it might be basic in the end game, they're still kind of excited for it. So I guess really, top of fine. I think I'd rather watch an Elimination Chamber. Oh wait, no, actually, I think I'm gonna put it top of fine. No DQ street fight no holds barred can rule the top of the fine tier only because you never know what you're gonna get, but at the same time you kind of know what you're gonna get. So you just gotta hope it's fun and they do something exciting, but it's never gonna be totally disappointing. So top of fine for the street fight. Now we have a match that I don't think we've seen promotion do in quite a while, unless my memory is like failing me. We have a stretcher match. I think, well, sure, looking at it from a wider lens, it's a bit silly. Like, put your opponent on a stretcher, roll them past a line, ding, 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 you win. Like, yeah, but at the same time, I like when there's like a goal or an achievement. Like, the point of the match to win is to do something a bit out of the ordinary. Not to get a pinfall, not to get a submission, you know. Hell, even not to climb a ladder, even though that's kind of why I like ladder matches. It's a bit of a different goal. But it's to do something great, like put your opponent in the back of an ambulance, put your opponent in a coffin, put your opponent in a grave and bury him alive. Like, I kind of like those matches where there's a bit of a different way to win. So stretcher matches fall into that tier. I'll put it above a chairs match. I'll put it above a buried alive match. I think stretcher matches, while there probably isn't like a standout, oh, greatest stretcher match of all time, there's been a handful of good ones. I know the Hardy Boys had one, Matt and Jeff, they had it on a random episode of SmackDown. Orton and Triple H had it as part of their 3 Stages of Hell match, which I'm now regretting not putting that on this tier list. So yeah, there's been some fine stretcher matches. I believe RVD and Orton had one, I want to say. But yeah, they never disappoint. I think they're fun. We don't see them too often, which is, I guess, part of the charm. I think the last one, correct me if I'm wrong, I think the last one WWE ever did was like in 2014, maybe? When it was like Cena versus Kane? I don't know. I'm going to put it low-key. I really enjoy a stretcher match. Like, Brock and Big Show had a banger one. I've seen that one a couple times over the past few months. It's like come on Peacock randomly, and I'm like, sure, I'll sit through it. It's a fun match. I'll put it right underneath Iron Man match, and great. I think it's like a guilty little pleasure stipulation for me, because it's just a little silly, but I love seeing guys get knocked out over a stretcher being rolled up the ramp. I don't know if AEW have ever done a stretcher match. I don't think they have, because I'm a effing mark bro for AEW, and I can't recall them ever doing one. So, AEW, do a stretcher match. Let's see what you got. Darby Allin versus somebody would be crazy. Alright, here's where people might get a little bit mad at me, but it's my personal opinion, so please, I'm so sorry. We got a submission match. Now, submission-based grapple wrestling, aka kind of the Daniel Bryan and Bret Hart wrestling, is not for me. I feel like sometimes it could be a bit boring, working over one body part throughout like 10, 15 minutes straight, holding it in submissions, yada yada, then they get the win. I get it. People like it. It's a thought out match pace, yada yada. I keep saying yada yada. And I get it. I just don't. I like more nonstop big moves happening. Like, would I rather watch Goldberg and Lesnar spear and F5 each other for 5 minutes than what's like a technical masterpiece match? I don't know. Now, when somebody does it well, like, again, Bryan Danielson, I'm always hooked, I'm always paying attention. So, but there's just something about a submissions match. Like, pictured here, again, going into more of an example that, again, is more of a personal take. When Thea Hale and Tiffany Stratton was announced for Great American Bash, I like both women. I think they'll put on a great match. Cool. Oh, we're going to add stipulation. Ooh, what's your stipulation going to be? A submission match. I was kind of like, oh, okay. You know, it's something against, you know, submissions. There's a lot of good ones. But it's just not really my cup of tea, and I hope you can see that. So a submission match, even though they can be very well done, for me personally, would I rather watch someone be buried alive in wrestling? Kind of, yeah. Would I rather watch someone getting beat up with chairs? Kind of, yeah. Would I rather oh my god, these submission matches, it's taking a toll on me. Would I rather watch a submission match over like a GCW indie death match? Honestly, probably. As much as I love you, Matt Cardona, Deathmatch King, I'll put the submission match above indie death matches. And yeah, it's just not for me. I'm sorry. You know, and if you're still watching, put some banger submission matches in the comments below, and maybe I'll go check them out, and maybe I'll be like, you know what? Give submission matches a chance. We got a tables match, a classic match. You cannot go wrong with the tables match. Sometimes they can be a bit basic, like brawl, brawl, brawl for 5 minutes, pull out a table, counter a move, put through table, ding, ding, winner, here's your prize, Mr. Wrestleman. And you know what? A basic tables match is still pretty fun. It's probably going to go above an I Quit. I love the sound and the look of tables breaking. Going through the announce table, even though it's done like every kind of like big show, pops me every time. I love it. The crowd always chants. They never go, we want ladders. I mean, I'm sure they do. You know, they never go, we want chairs. They always go, we want tables. I've never heard a chant more for another weapon or item other than tables. You know, we want tables. You know, Devon get the tables, crowd are gonna go effing nuts. So I think for that reason alone, tables have a reputation for being the best tables matches. Table matches, I think they can be a bit more entertaining than a battle royal. Falls Count Anywhere. The thing about tables match, you go through a table, match is over. If you put your opponent through a table, you win. Hell in a Cell, Falls Count Anywhere. Hell, even ladder matches can get a little quirky when they add a table into the mix. The match continues, and you just have a nice, fun little table break along the way. So I guess that's the only thing that makes me not put it past all the other options, is because once one table is broken, then there you go. GG's, it's over. But yeah, it's going in best. It's a very good match. We got, okay, so this might like go against my indie deathmatch wrestling, but we have specifically AEW, and I think New Japan does these kind of matches. We have Texas Death. We have Hangman and Moxley. We got Hangman and Archer. We have Hangman and Cole. This is really like in AEW's like, in AEW, this is really Hangman Page's match, and I love that for him. We love the hanger. Texas Death matches in AEW, they really never disappoint. I wouldn't say underrated, but one of the matches that I think is like a low-key, like hidden gem all-time classic for Dynamite and AEW in general is the Lance Archer Hangman Page Texas Death match on episode of Dynamite. I don't know exactly what episode it was. I think it was like right after his series with like Bryan Danielson when Hangman was champion. But dude, Lance Archer chokeslam on the steel steps, the rope being like taken down, and Hangman having to like use the referee for the buckshot. That's kind of the main reason this match is like being praised by me, just for that match alone. Also, Moxley and Hangman at Revolution, you know, being hung with that chain. I think the way the match ends is either like submit or like give up or knockout, like 10 count. I think that's like, yeah, 10 count or give up. And I think that's a very nice couple of options in the match, because it's like either gotta beat him so hard he can't get up, or beat him so hard he just quits. It's like a last man standing match and an I Quit match all in one. And let's see what we got here. I Quit match is up there. Last man standing is up there, top of great. So what do you get when you combine them? You put them in great as well. I think since we haven't seen as many Texas Deaths as Last Man Standing, I think, well, that might be a quality over quantity thing, low-key. I'm going to put Texas Death Match top of great. I think they can get a little too violent for some people's taste, like, you know, especially when Moxie's there. And it's AEW, so there's going to be blood pretty much anytime you have a Texas Death Match. I mean, death is in the title, so you kind of got to expect that, to be fair. But yeah, it's going in great. That's just personal. I'm pretty sure some people would be on Team I Quit, Team Last Man Standing, but I like both of them, so I see nothing wrong with a Texas Death Match. Plus, I live in Texas, and, you know, there you go, cheap pop. Put Texas in the name, I'll cheer for it. We have a TLC match. Again, we got another little math equation for y'all. We see chairs match, even though they're not super great, it landed itself in the top of okay. We got a tables match in the best tier. We have a ladder match, top of the best tier. So what does that mean for our friend Mr. TLC match? I think we gotta put him. I think there's been a lot more classic ladder matches, but let's not forget the classic TLC matches. We got the tag matches with the Hardys, Edge Christian, Dudley Boys. Taker and Edge had a really, really good one. What are some other TLC matches? I know Sheamus and Roman. While it's not a classic, that one just pops in my head. I don't know why. What are some other banger TLC matches? I can't really think of them. Then again, anytime I ask myself a question mid-recording, my mind goes blank. I think there have been a bit more, like, I think there have been a lot of better just straight up ladder matches than TLC. TLC has a lot more like moving parts and like crashes through tables, yada yada. But I think ladder matches have like Shawn Michaels and Razor, Jericho and Michaels. There's always a bit more story to it. TLC is more like car crash fun and also story. Ladder matches is like a really good match with like climbing ladder to win. Both of them are basically the same except one with added violence. But I think the ladder match is a bit more. Because another thing is, if you take away the Hardys TLC matches with Edge Christian and the Dudleys, TLC loses a lot of stock. Maybe that's like a big, oh, Nick, you're wrong, buddy. What the hell are you talking about? But like, I don't know. That's the vibe I get. I feel like TLC matches wouldn't be as huge as they are if it weren't for the Hardys. You could say the same thing for ladder matches, but hell, we do have Money in the Bank, singles ladder matches, triple threat ladder matches, like. And also we don't get very many TLC matches unless it's at TLC. It's like, what? Like, when's the last time they had like a normal TLC match like on Raw? You know, beats me. I don't know, but yeah, I think I'm gonna put it second place, right under normal ladder match. We have surprisingly we have a TNA / Impact Wrestling match here. We have an Ultimate X match. Now, since TNA and Impact is probably like one of the less popular mainstream wrestling products, still mainstream, so good for them. That's not a knock on them at all. Plus, past couple of years, they've really picked up their game. I might actually have to start watching TNA. I say that every time I bring them up, but I never do. I'm so sorry. But we have the Ultimate X match. We have the giant X hanging from like the ropes attached to scaffolding above the ring. It is so silly looking, and you gotta like not tightrope, but like hang onto the rope, kind of like monkey bar your way to the middle and pull down the X. It is so just interesting to look at and watch. There's been a lot of crazy Ultimate X moments. AJ Styles getting drop kicked and doing that like front flip off the rope and landing back in the ring. That could have gone really wrong. You have just anytime someone is like latched onto the rope, like inching their way towards that X. We have, I believe, I don't know who it was because I'm not too familiar with TNA. There was someone hanging from the rope and someone jumped and caught him with a cutter, crashing down into the ring. Insane. I feel like not violence, but the crazy stunt moments have been scaled down a bit in recent Impact and TNA years, because every time they have an Ultimate X match still in TNA, I at least catch some of the highlights if I don't watch it live, because they're just exciting. It's interesting. It's like a ladder match, but with no ladders, and you gotta have crazy, like, it's like American Ninja Warrior meets a ladder match, if that makes sense. I'm gonna put it very bottom of great. I think it's just so interesting to look at, and I know I never bring this point up in any like tier list or anything like that, but very like toyetic. Like if TNA was a super big promotion and they were selling toys in Walmart and whatnot, if I was a little kid and I saw the Ultimate X playset, I'd spend my money on that. I'd be like, Mom, give me this now. We're gonna move on to our final submission on this list. We have War Games, Blood and Guts, big cage, 2 rings. It's always gonna be some fun. Blood and Guts is a bit more violent and a bit more chaotic and all over the place, while NXT and WWE's War Games, and I guess WCW too, is a bit more polished and like, here are the rules. You got the rules, you got the competitors, here you go, have fun. I think both of them are very good. NXT bringing back War Games, it's already become one of my favorite stipulations. I never watched old WCW. I'm sure I could go back and rewatch all the classics now, but to this day, I still have not gone back and watched like a single WCW pay-per-view. Is that like bad on me? I don't know. Maybe I need to like learn my wrestling history, kid. I don't know. But War Games is really fun. I don't think you can have, NXT-wise, like I said, didn't watch WCW stuff. I don't think you can have a bad War Games match. Like the weakest War Games match was probably 2020, but hey, that was a pandemic. Well, no, actually, no. Maybe the NXT 2.0, like the new gang versus the old gang, like Ciampa and Gargano's team versus Braun Breaker and Carmella's team. Maybe that wasn't that good, but that might just be my dislike for NXT 2.0, like saying that, but I still think it was a fine match. That like not Project Champ, but that fairy tale ending, like when and then Braun Breaker spears Ciampa, that was pretty nuts, pretty nuts. You can't go wrong with War Games. I think it transcends fine. It lands itself probably in great. Honestly, hold up. Don't count the 3 just yet, Mr. Referee. I think it could land itself in best. Let's see. Let's ask the age-old question. Would I rather watch it over a Last Man Standing match? Actually, maybe not. I don't know. Because, like, you gotta, do the countdown, get a new guy in, have another countdown, get a new guy in, and just keep that going for a few more times until all the team members are in, and then War Games officially starts. Again, I like it where it's kind of the same as AEW, where you can't escape the cage or ask a door to be open, yada yada. Otherwise, your team forfeits. So I'm going to put it above an Iron Man match, above a dog collar match, above Anarchy in the Arena, even though Anarchy in the Arena low-key is kind of like a War Games match, but without the cage. Above a 2 out of 3 falls. You know what? I'm going to put War Games right there for now. I'm going to move 2 out of 3 falls under Anarchy in the Arena. War Games I'm going to put... Ooh, really? I'm thinking about top of great, beating the Texas Death Match. I think, yeah, especially NXT, it's super polished and, like, easy to follow along, and they've all been great. I think War Games, since they've all been great, and I can't say, like, really a single bad thing about the War Games match, I'm putting it in best. Plus the addition of AEW bringing in Blood and Guts, it's like anything NXT's War Games doesn't do, AEW will do it in Blood and Guts, the violence and the blood and all that nonsense. Especially this year. There's your tier list for wrestling match stipulations. There are a few I missed. Let me know your favorite wrestling stipulation down in the comments. Me personally, as you can see, top of the list, good old ladder match. Can't go wrong with it. Tables match, can't go wrong with it. A battle royal, if it's on a random episode of Raw or a Slim Jim sponsored at SummerSlam, I will be seated and I will watch it. Thank you for liking this video. I hope you liked it. You better click that like button down there. I'm watching. Okay, you did it? Good, thank you. I'll see you when I see you. Goodbye.